It didn't take long to demolish the remnant of the West End neighborhood tucked into the corner of Business 40 and Peters Creek Parkway. Demolition crews made quick work of the buildings, and motor graders soon erased any remaining sign of the once thriving neighborhood, cleared to make way for a new baseball stadium. In the big picture of life in the city, the neighborhood was expendable. It had long ago lost its vitality, and what buildings remained held no historic or architectural significance. Its loss was not to be mourned, unless, like Geneva Britt, you happened to have lived there.
Oh, we had a wonderful neighborhood. Everybody knew each other, all the neighbors knew each other's children, and it was just a good neighborly neighborhood.
Geneva Britt was born into the neighborhood in 1921 when the matrix of streets where she grew up was unmistakably part of the West End. By then, her neighborhood was firmly established as an enclave for working-class families.
There's not a lot known about how the area developed. We know that as it developed, it was always an African-American neighborhood. In the 1891 bird's eye view of Winston-Salem, it shows some buildings in this area, but you can't tell exactly if they're here. There was a man who owned the land named Nathaniel T. Watkins, and he died in about 1891, and he was a well-to-do white man. It's a question of whether the Watkins children developed the land. It's more likely that families, including the Carter family, developed the land. There's a Carter Street, which is shown as B Street on earlier maps. And the land was developed, again, as a residential area for African Americans.
My family goes back 7 generations of living on the West End. My great-great-great-grandmother helped founded the church that was at the bottom of Watkins Street. And my great-great-grandparents lived on Watkins. My grandparents lived on Granville Drive, and me and my parents lived on Watkins. And I had uncles and aunts that lived all around in the same area.
There were several shotguns. A shotgun is a house that was long and narrow. The front had a window and a door. This is always true. A window and a door. It was 3 rooms in succession with no hall.
Well, it was what we call a shotgun house. We had the bathroom on the back porch, and of course we used them. We didn't have a bathroom per se, we just had the commode, because we had to use the 10 to 4 bath.
When I was growing up, lots of the ladies did day work, or they called day work, domestic work. And some of the men worked for Reynolds, some of them worked for Haynes.
The next door neighbors would always take care of us when my mother was working. She would take care of us. So when she was working, my mother would take care of her kids.
We used to get big snows a lot around here. And we used to have sleds. If you didn't have a sled, you'd take a garbage top lid and sit on it and slide down the hills and things.
When it rained, they would tear up pasteboard boxes and slide off and put water on it and slide off the red hill. So we made our own recreation.
That little creek that runs over there, that was a cabin, Peters Creek, and that was like the beach was, like a little sand dune down there. We'd be down there sticking our feet in the water and playing and pretending to be swimming, but we really wasn't, because, our arms was stretching the ground, but that's what we done.
I remember down in Watkins Street, there was a spring down there. I remember when I was a little kid, my mom told me to go across the street to the spring and get some cool water.
Yeah, something. They have a spring in their backyard. Well, see, I used to live the back of their fence, and I had a dog. We would go down there and get pails of water out of the spring.
And everybody loved cold water back then because we didn't have refrigerators, and we get ice off of the ice trucks. And we would love to go down there and get some cool water.
Well, the neighborhood changed significantly later on. We really don't know a lot about the neighborhood after, say, the 30s. But when I-40 came through, it tore down a lot of the southern part. And then when Peters Creek came through, not only did it cut through part of the western part of the neighborhood, but also the Peters Creek ramp cut through a lot. and it really isolated that neighborhood all around, and it also was surrounded by all the traffic of Peters Creek and I-40, which of course got heavier and louder and worse as time went on, and the neighborhood declined significantly.
As economics and times changed and people changed, it brought in a new breed of people, and it will always be the West End, no matter who's there or who's not there. But that's changed, and nothing stays the same. So I was glad to see that it lasted, that the neighborhood lasted as long as it did.
You had houses falling into disrepair, and then they were abandoned, and then they were eventually torn down. You can see from early maps there were a lot of houses there that haven't been there for decades, and the sense of neighborhood, with the neighbors all having a close relationship, as the houses and the people disappeared, that whole sense of neighborhood disappeared.
And I miss those times. I miss that neighborhood, you know, because everybody knew everybody. We did for each other. One family had a hard time, the other family would pitch in and help them through, and that's something that sometimes we don't see a lot of today.
Yeah, we had good neighbors and all. You take all this stuff going on. We used to sleep on the porch and leave your doors unlocked. People didn't bother you.
It was like one big family. It was just the whole neighborhood. And as I look back on time, and I see how it kind of helped us as individuals, because we couldn't do but so much, because somebody knew you.
Although nothing remains of the streets where Henry Harper and Belinda Williams and Mike Rhines grew up, the spirit of the neighborhood survives at the annual West End reunion started by Julia Brown in 2006.
We had a good neighborhood, and then a lot of our neighbors, friends, relatives has moved to other areas in Winston-Salem. But I always thought that's our roots. That's where I was born and raised. And, they have other reunions around town. And so I'm going to get one up for us. So I started then, in '98, getting, all our friends and neighbors, getting their phone numbers and telling them about it.
Today, all that remains are the memories of a neighborhood where families lived and children played. It was a pocket in time, gone, but not forgotten.